Good morning, everyone. There are many things in life that you can do multiple times, but you only have one shot at making a first impression on someone. In fact, since you walked through those glass doors of this hotel, you've been making first impressions for the last few days. Some of them you might be proud of. Some of them, if it was 2 in the morning and you had a few more to drink, maybe you wouldn't be so proud of them. But first impressions are actually really important. They help you in success in life. If you master the art of first impressions, you can get a great job. You can get a great date. Lots of people talk about first impressions, but there's very little spoken about last impressions. What are last impressions? That's what I want to talk to you about this morning. In order to do that, I have to take you back over 100 years ago. In a little town called Kshanev, Poland. Kshanev is population 10,000 people in 1919. It's a little town that's about equidistant between Auschwitz and Krakow, about 30 minutes either way. And in that town, about 50% were Jewish. And there was a little Jewish family. They were the Weinstock family. Avraham and Leah and their 6 children. Avraham and Leah had a beautiful marriage. They had a wonderful life, actually. Avraham was a chazan. He was the son of a chazan. He was the grandson of a chazan. He came from a long line of people who loved to stand in shul and sing and inspire other people. And Leah loved her husband deeply. And they loved their kids. They lived a simple life, and all was good. But one day, Avraham approached Leah. He said, "Sweetheart, I have to ask you a request. I want to go to Eretz Yisrael. I want to go build up the land. I want to make the Jewish people's dreams come true. I'll make money. I'll send for the family. Will you let me go?" I tried asking the rabbi permission, and he said, "You have to ask your wife," so that's why I'm here. She looked him in the eye. She saw his pleading expression. She waited a few minutes, gulped, and then she said, "You have my blessing." So he prepared for a few months, and November 1919, he finished packing up his bags, and the entire Weinstock family accompanied him to the train station in Kshanev. And as he was boarding the train, he turned around to see his family, his wife Leah, surrounded by all of her 6 children holding onto her skirt, just like little puppies. And he saw a tear drip down her face. He thought it was because she would miss him. That's natural. But little did he know that deep down inside her, she was harboring a secret. That in the few months that he was preparing to go, she had found out that she was pregnant with their 7th child. She didn't tell him. Do you know why? Because she knew that if she did, he wouldn't go. And then she waved goodbye. So Avram Weinstock actually took the train ride to Russia. And in Russia, he boarded a ship, what was known as the SS Ruslin, that left that November 2019. It was a cargo ship filled with grain and packed with 670 immigrants, artists, teachers, painters, philosophers, and yeshiva students. A very strange array of people. All were crammed inside this ship in really uncomfortable conditions. But they had spirit in their hearts because they knew that they were going to land in Eretz Yisrael. And he did. They were in the port of Jaffa, and he began. They toured around what was then known as Palestine, building the land, making it beautiful. And they wrote letters back and forth between Avraham and Leah. He described what this land looked like, something that they only read about in books, in the prayer services, something that their great-great-great-grandparents never would have dreamed he would be able to see, and now he's in this land. And he described the beauty. And she described how the kids were doing. They're all okay, don't worry, I've got it all covered. I'm so proud of you. And those letters back and forth were a beautiful exchange of mutual support for each other, but for a greater mission. But then one day she received a letter, and it wasn't from her husband, Avraham. It was from someone else. We regret to inform you that your husband contracted malaria as he was clearing through the swamps, and we're sorry to say he passed away. She was devastated, to say the least. And a few weeks later, she gave birth to that seventh child. She named him Eliyahu. Eliyahu was a delicious little kid, growing up in that city, Kshanev, Poland. But as he got older, he started to realize he was a little different than other kids. And he would come home crying, "Mommy, why am I the only one that doesn't have a father? Why am I the only one that when there's a party in school, all the other tatis," that's Yiddish for dad, "why are all the other tatis coming to school? I don't have anyone. I just have to deal with one of my older brothers." Then he got older. "I'm the only one that's sitting in synagogue and I don't have my dad sitting next to me. Why me?" And you know what her response was every single time? Her response was, "Do you know who your father was? None of those little children can claim that they had a father as brave as yours. Your father was a great man. He was a brave man. He died for the land of Israel. He died going to Eretz Yisrael. You are a son of a brave man, and you are brave too." Then he got older and it was his bar mitzvah. Do you know how uncomfortable it is to be at your bar mitzvah and you don't have a father? And he once again cried. And what did his mother respond? "Don't ever forget. You are the son of a brave man and you are brave too." And he went through his bar mitzvah and he continued to study in the local yeshiva and he grew up. And when he was 17 years old, he turned to his mother, who he saw was challenged tremendously to somehow keep the family afloat. And he said, "I want to leave yeshiva, and I want to be able to work so that I can support this family." And she said, "Let me think about it." And the next day, she called her son, opened up his hand, and put a little package of zloty in his hand and said, "You're going to Krakow to yeshiva. Spend a few years investing in yourself. Then you can come back and work. Don't worry. You can always work. You only have one shot to really invest in yourself when you're young." And as she closed her hand around his, he wondered, where did this money come from? And he saw that the little wedding band that was the only remnant of her husband was now gone. He took the money. He went to Krakow. He slept in a girls' school at night. As the dormitory, he woke up in the morning, would put his bed, roll it up, put it along the side, and he would leave as the girls came in the local Beis Yaakov building. He would scrounge around for food in local families around Krakow, but he was alive because he was learning. And he too would write letters to his mother. But then shortly afterwards, the war broke out. His mother said, "Stay there, don't worry, I'm fine." But after a while, he decided he doesn't care what his mother's going to say. He's coming home to take care of her. And he boarded a train, but he never made it back to Kshanev. He never saw his mother again. Eliyahu went through 11 different concentration camps, survived the war. And do you know how he survived the war? He said every single time he wanted to give up, because everybody around him was giving up, every single time he heard the echoes of his mother's voice. You are a son of a brave man. So are you. And after he survived the war, he went to a DP camp in Austria, met his wife Miriam. They boarded a boat about a year later, landed in Newport News, Virginia, had 2 children, who then had many grandchildren, and one of those grandchildren is me. I never knew this story. I've never heard this story my whole life till I was 20 years old. I went to visit my Zadie in Boca Raton, Florida, where all American Zadies live. And I wanted to ask him advice. He was my best friend. I said, Zadie, should I go to Israel? I have this opportunity to be able to learn, but I'm kind of scared, I'll be honest with you. You know what he said to me? I have a story to tell you. And at the end he said, you are a great-granddaughter of great people. They are brave, so are you. Now, why do I tell you this story? I tell you this story because I want to know a show of hands. How many of you in this room know your great-grandparents? How many in this room know your great-great-grandparents? A frighteningly small amount of hands are up. Look around. 1, 2, 3. There's one back there. Your great-great. It's fascinating to see, and it's also a sobering thought to take note of the fact that most people in this room, generations from now, your great-grandchildren may not know your names, your great-great-grandchildren. They may not know what you ever looked like. But there's something that's called last impressions. Last impressions means that every step that we take, even the smallest moments, even a package of zloty being placed in someone's hand, and they notice a missing ring, those small little moments, or the big moments of giving up your life, quite literally, to be able to build up a dream of the Jewish nation, those things, every step that we take, those things become lasting impressions for future generations, which is such an exciting thing to take note of. That means that I never die. That means that every step that I take, every mitzvah that I do, every moment of greatness that I have could be transformed into a message that my great-great-grandchildren will one day share with a group of 800 people from all over the world. That is what we call power. Lasting impressions is what transforms mentees into mentors for their future generations. And that is your power. Own it. Thank you.